different levels, I cannot relate. You never win if you playing it safe. It's all a game until you get played.
Moving on to my next topic. This one here, I heard about this story a couple of months ago when it first broke, and I should have did a video on it, but I didn't. This story comes out of West Virginia. This is probably one of the sickest things that I've heard in a long time. And I've heard some disgusting type of things from people in our society that they're doing. Just disgusting. But this one here, oh my God. Like, how do you even get to this point? And what I'm talking about, slavery is still alive and well. At least it was in Virginia for a couple who decided that they were going to adopt some black kids and treat them like slaves. I want to take y'all to West Virginia so y'all can hear this, and then we're going to talk about this as this video plays along, because I want y'all to understand that these people did not eat, even after they were caught, red-handed, treating black kids like slaves that they had got out of the foster care system. They ultimately decided that they were not going to take any type of accountability, and still to this day don't believe they did anything wrong. Let's take a listen.
Both of you refused to accept responsibility throughout the trial and still here today, which makes my job a lot easier. And instead of apologizing today, because you never have said you're sorry, but what you did do was put on one of the most reprehensible, narcissistic defenses that I have ever seen in my years of trial work. And may God have mercy on your souls, because this court will not.
Now, you hear the judge. The judge is pissed. You heard her say that they still ain't take accountability for this. Let's keep going.
Please stand.
Blistering words from Judge Mary Claire Akers as Jeannie Whitefeather and Donald Lance were sentenced to decades in prison today, answering to their historic convictions last month of human trafficking and forced labor.
Now, this was a case that stemmed from the October 2023 discovery of two teens locked in a shed in Sissonville and revealed years of abuse and neglect of 4 of their adopted black children. Whitefeather was sentenced to a maximum of 215 years for human trafficking, forced child labor, civil rights violations, and child abuse and neglect. Her husband, Lance, was sentenced to 160 years max for similar charges. He was found not guilty on the civil rights violations and had fewer child abuse charges than Whitefeather. This was the first time in state history that human trafficking charges were ever brought on the state level.
The first time that human trafficking and child labor charges had ever been brought up in any case in the state of West Virginia. When y'all hear what y'all about to hear, trigger warning, trigger warning, trigger warning. I just want y'all to understand what y'all about to hear about what they did to these kids. Let's go.
Prosecutors were able to prove to a jury that Whitefeather and Lance brought 5 adopted black children to Sissonville in May of 2023 from Washington State, made them do manual labor, and neglected and abused them with physical punishment and a lack of basic necessities. This all while receiving adoption payments from the state of Minnesota. Whitefeather and Lance have also been ordered to pay $280,000 each in restitution to the children.
They brought these kids from Washington State all the way to West Virginia. Foster kids. Getting money from the state of Washington. Getting money from the state to foster these kids. And they treated these kids like they were nothing. Like they owned them, like they were property. Like chattel. This sounds like 1800 stuff. No, this is 2025, people. This couple, the wife over 200 years, the husband over 100 years. They'll never, ever see the light of day again. They'll never see each other again. This is disgusting. They deprive these kids of of hygiene, food. They locked them in a shed. They forced them to stand with their hands over their heads for long extended periods of time. Found bruises and scars, like they would be getting whipped. Like, who does this? This couple decided that they wanted to be slave master and the missus. And the reason why the woman, she got more charges is because she got a couple of more civil rights violations than the husband did. Who's checking on these kids in the foster system? Do they not have a caseworker? Were they not, so they, like, a lot of parts of this story when it was coming out, like, they weren't even living in the state of Washington no more. So I don't even know how they were getting benefits from the state of Washington. Like, do they not periodically check to make sure? Do they not have to verify the information? Make sure it's accurate, updated. Is that not a case that the system would allow kids to be treated like this and suffer like this for years and years and years and years, to the point where the oldest, in a letter to the court, she said, I hope that she wanted the judge to have them stand like she used to have them stand. Like they used to, like this couple. She wanted that to be, this child wanted that to be one of the punishments. They should feel how it feels to just stand up and just have your arms over your head like this and just stare for periods of time and you can't let it go. They got videos showing them doing this in a bar to these kids. And after all of that, after all of the testimony, the videos, the evidence, the clear case of abuse, neglect, and trauma that has been inflicted upon these children, these two bastards still decided that they were not going to take any accountability for anything and that they were at no fault at all. I hope they rot in prison. This is despicable. That we got people still out here that believe that they can get away with this. This is the problem with the foster care system. This is the problem. Anybody can foster a child. The system failed these kids. Too often do we see kids in the foster care system, their foster parents are abusing them. Just all they're doing is just enough to get a check. And once the kid is 18 years old, guess what they do? They age them out of the system. They don't get paid. They kick them out. Yon. And they left to go out here and face trauma and all this stuff all over again. And it's sickening because we got people out here that take advantage of this system. They'll foster these kids and don't do nothing for them. Treat them as if they're the lowest of the lows. And that's exactly what this couple did. And you see what they did. They adopted some black kids to do it. I know a lot of people who advocate to stop interracial foster care. Now, I know that there's stories like Kenny Benerick, the Olympian. I know there's other stories out there where there's great fostering. But we also see stories like Michael Orr, when he get taken advantage of. And now we have this story. And there's plenty others. The foster care system in this country needs to be revitalized. It needs to be revamped completely because it is horrific. Because the caseworkers should at least been checking on these kids. And as soon as they found out that these kids were no longer in the state, there should have been an APB put out. You should not be able to take kids out of the state without Child Protective Services knowing, because they still are a ward of the state. The state of Washington failed these children. Failed them bad.